Hey guys, I am doing a video on kind of an unsung hero, a member of the Apollo 11 crew. He's been called the forgotten astronaut, he's been called the loneliest astronaut. I speak of Michael Collins, and I think he personally was the MVP of the Apollo 11 mission to the moon and the moon landing and all of that, because without him, none of them would have made it home. All right. Now, there's a couple of other things not concerning Mike Collins, but I wanted to, talk about because it's a lot of fun to learn about these things. I was not born in 1969, so I was born in 1975. So this is all stuff that I learned in school. Um, like for instance, Buzz Aldrin took the first space selfie. He's the first one recorded as taking a selfie. He also is recorded on the third day of the mission to be the first astronaut to have space sickness, which happens to your ear and eyes. It's a thing you get real sick. And, he didn't want to make a big deal out of it. He didn't want Houston to be making a big deal out of it. So, um, now, Buzz Aldrin's always been sort of vocal about what he saw when he was up there. He's talked about seeing something that he was sure wasn't the Saturn rocket 5. I think it was Saturn 5. There was another rocket up there, but they have confirmed that that was about 6,000 miles away from him. So it couldn't have been that. So he's pretty sure he saw something up there out of this world, right? And which is great. I think it's cool. He also thinks that, he saw some things off in the distance towards the darker side of the moon, and perhaps some hidden base, some hidden structures, some things that, a bridge, a tower, things that have, sort of been cleaned up via NASA before they've been kind of publicized, you might want to say. They kind of airbrush over that stuff. But as of lately, they've been coming out, because I mean, honestly, disclosure has begun. So there's a little bits, trickling out here and there. But I want to talk mostly, like I said, about Michael Collins. And, it's funny that people had all these little funny names for him. And man, he is a funny guy, or he was a funny guy. He passed away in 2021, but he had a great sense of humor about the whole thing. He said in an interview that he was approached by NASA saying, you've been chosen to go on a mission, Apollo 11 mission, and you're going to go with Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. He was like, great, that's super. He had no idea they were going to the moon. Had no idea. He was just like, I like those guys. That's great. It's going to be, get me out there. No. So he found out he was going to the moon, but he wasn't going to be one of the guys going onto the moon. He still was perfectly fine. He was perfectly happy being a part of this absolutely monumental historical flight mission, the whole 9 yards. So he gets a kick out of these, like, the Lonely Hearts Club for Michael Collins, because he did not feel that at all. Right. Anyway, they talk. Actually, there was a guy they have recorded from Houston as saying this: not since Adam has any human known such solitude as Mike Collins is experiencing. Now, they're referring to, while, as he says, as Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were on the ground on the moon collecting moon rocks, he was making revolutions around the moon. So he had to spend 47 minutes during his revolutions on the dark side of the moon, meaning complete darkness, absolutely, I mean, nothing, right? Now, he has said, I'm telling you, with humor, everything he said was with humor. The food was terrible, but I enjoyed my time behind the moon. It's a rugged place and not that comfortable. So, the most important role of his mission, like his part, was being tasked with bringing them all back safely. And it all came down to the one single tricky maneuver of redocking the lunar module. Now, one wrong decision, one wrong move, 1 centimeter here, 1 centimeter there, disaster. Okay. Collins worried the most about what if Armstrong and Aldrin didn't get off at all, meaning they had to be at a certain Well, basically, the lunar modular had to be. Oh, that stinkers. I got interrupted for a second. I apologize. So there were he positions that they had a specific position he had to be in, and that was his biggest concern. Was that going to go smoothly? So actually, he had carried around his neck a 8 by 10 notebook made with rope, and he would carry it around with him. It actually had 18 different possibilities and scenarios that he was trained if like XY happened and AB happened. I mean, if all these different things happened, he said he was trained for all of them. And then he sat for a moment and said, okay, well, there's a couple of them that I didn't quite understand. So I didn't study that well. So I was really just hoping that everything was going to work out. And thankfully, everything did. Went off without a hitch. Thank God. So once all three astronauts were back on Earth, they were thinking, man, we just landed on the moon. We did all these great things. We're going to have a hero's welcome. Yeah, not so much. So they came back and initially were treated, as Michael says, like aliens. He says they were put into quarantine for 2 weeks, that's normal. Okay. But some of the scientists were concerned about possible pathogens that could have been brought back from the moon and could have been harmful to humankind. All right. So the scientists decided the solution was to put them inside a hermetically sealed container with gigantic colonies of white mice. What? It's what the fuck? Anyway, if the mice lived, they were fine. Everything was great. If they died, they were in deep shit. Like, what was going to be the contingency plan if, like, what if a mouse died by old age and they didn't know? It would take like a whole nother like weeks to figure out if that was the case and it wasn't something else. So Collins joked, as usual. He tried to name as many of the mice as he could because he actually called them his friends while he was in there. He figured, why not? They're adorable. I'm just going to spend time with them anyway. So, anyway, everybody survived. The astronauts came out finally. And he was asked when he knew that this was what he wanted to do with his life. And he said his response was, again, with just the most subtlety, like awesome humor, deadpan. He says, well, I have to say, it was pretty early. Star Trek came on a new series when I was about 10, and I watched every week and adored it and learned the word engineering. So I was like, all right, if I do engineering, one day I'll figure out how to do something with space. How brilliant. I mean, come on. Even though Collins is retired, he keeps a sharp eye on the future of space travel. And he says we need to think further out, far beyond the moon. He says, and I quote, so Mars has always been my destination, my favorite one. And going back to the moon is certainly an interesting detour, but I would prefer that we set sail directly for Mars. It's something that we have in us. We go out at night and we look up to the sky. We see things we don't know what they are. What are they about? We are curious. We want to see it. We want to see infinity and perhaps almost to visit infinity. It's a part of being a human being, feeling a part of what's out there. It's pretty powerful. He's pretty awesome. I got to be honest. I got just a big old crush on this guy while I was researching him. He was great. But he's absolutely right, in my opinion. And a lot of us, including me, do go out into the outside and look up to the sky all the time, and wonder what's up there, what else is there, and I'll tell you, it's what makes us human, I guess, right? The curiosity and the wonder of it all, and just keeping some, I don't, childlike fascination about space and what the possibilities are. But I don't know. According to Michael Collins, it's all there for us, and it's just a matter of time before we get out there. And I'm here for all of it personally. I think it's wonderful, and I cannot wait to see what happens in the future. But I really just want to say a huge kudos to Michael Collins as the Apollo 11 MVP, brought everyone home safe. He's a true hero, just like Armstrong and Aldrin. And makes you feel really kind of warm and fuzzy and patriotic, and just really proud that we were able to do that. I know some people, out there are like, it never happened. The moon's hollow, blah, which could be, I mean, the moon could be hollow. I don't know. I do think there's some weird shit going on in the dark side of the moon, but that's for another day. So until next time, I hope you are all staying happy, healthy, stay weird, stay curious, and take care. Bye.